perfection. It is an entrepreneur's worst enemy because we want it to be perfect. So we don't end up sending it out the door. And we see other people and we're like, I could do that so much better. And yeah, you could do it so much better. But you know what? They actually got it out the door. And that's the key, is finding that balance, because if you wait for perfect, you will be waiting forever. 80% out the door is better than 100% still sitting on your desk.
Welcome to Drop and Give Me 20, where you learn keys to entrepreneurial success as Lindsey Germono interviews business owners with military backgrounds on what works and what doesn't. Listen as they focus on the stories, both challenges and wins, that military entrepreneurs have faced in growing their businesses.
Welcome to Drop and Give Me 20. Drop and Give Me 20 is the podcast for military entrepreneurs, and I am Lindsey Germono, owner of Germono Advertising Company. Each episode focuses on 20 minutes of a story, inspirational lesson, business tip, advice, obstacle from successful military entrepreneurs. And today I'm very excited to introduce my guest for this segment, Kathy Stoddard Torrey, owner of Tapfer Consulting. Kathy, good morning.
Good morning.
We went through a couple minutes of how to pronounce your name and everything right. And I have that recorded. So hopefully I can build that into some of the blooper reels.
We had a lot of good things for the blooper reel ahead of time.
Yeah, we did. So Kathy is just to share with the listeners, one of the things when I started developing this idea of a podcast, Kathy was one of the major pillars in helping me process through this. So I know Kathy very well. I've hand-selected guests for this podcast. Some of the ones I know, some of the other ones I don't, but they've been introduced to me or recommended to me. So I am very honored to say that I not only know Kathy professionally, but personally, and she's helped develop this and see this little inkling of an idea that just couldn't go away. And so thank you, Kathy, for that. And thank you, for everything that you've done for me and for my business. And I'm so excited for once in our career to talk about your business.
Hey, that's great. You are an amazing person who has done stellar things. Coaching people like you is just a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you. I think, I don't know if fun is, you probably get off the phone with me and you need some Advil, but that's okay.
No. You are inspiring. You inspire me too. So
that's nice. So for the listeners, why don't we kind of run through a little bit about you and how you came to Tapfer Consulting? And I know the story of how Tapfer, the name was developed. I heard you talk about that. And I would love for our listeners to hear that, because those that are listening, we get stuck on what to call our business, the name of our business. And that's one of the things you lose sleep over, that and logos and colors and stuff. So tell us a little bit more about you, Kathy.
Okay. Well, my official title is leadership coach and trainer. And that's kind of one piece of what I do. I'm also just a coach, a life coach, an entrepreneur coach. I coach some entrepreneurs as well. And I started taking coaching classes back in 2005. And as soon as I started the training, I got a contract. I mean, I was just so fortunate. And they wanted to see my website, and they wanted to know the name of my company, nothing that I had even considered. I was just starting. And so I was sleepless, worried. And my husband said, he's the one that came up with the idea. And I guess I should tell you this story first. Military spouse. My husband was in the Army for 30 years, and both my boys were born overseas. And it was a long, labor in a German hospital, and I had an audience of German women watching. And after Nathaniel was born, we were in the village, and this German woman who was there kept tapping me on the arm saying, "Oh, Tapfer, Tapfer." My husband and I are like, it probably means screams or, crazy woman who throws off the covers. And we went and looked it up, and it meant brave.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So every now and then when things were hard, my husband would call me Tapfer Torrey. And as we started this, and I was thinking about this business, and it was scary and hard, and I'd never done anything like it before, he said, why don't you call it Tapfer? And that's how it started.
Wow.
That is how it started 10 years ago, as Tapfer Consulting was from Brave.
Did you start it overseas or were you here in the States?
I was here in the States.
Wow. So you carried that all the way back from Germany. So thank you, Germany.
Yeah, no, it was great. Germany, we were stationed in Germany twice. So, everywhere you go it leaves some imprint on you. So that was one piece.
And what led you to consulting? I know you said that before, with 30 years in, we talked a little bit about what that kind of lifestyle looked like, but what eventually led you to want to launch your own consulting business?
Well, back in the day, not a lot of spouses worked.
Okay.
And Sam had, it'd been about 20 years in his career, and I was burning out. He was not, but I was getting some burnout. And he really recognized it before I did. And he said, whatever's going to make you happy, do it. And this sounds ridiculous for people that know me. I don't usually ask permission to do anything.
I understand that. I might know how that feels. I don't know.
I think most people do, but it felt like permission and something I hadn't thought of before. I was like, oh, I could do something different. And so I decided to start with coaching classes, and I did do my training with the Coaches Training Institute. And then I started doing training, actually at the War College. I got some of the best facilitator training I have ever seen in my years as a facilitator at the War College then they called it FLAGS, Facilitating Leadership and Group Skills. And I loved it. And the woman there said, you're good at this. And I'm like, really? Am I? Wow. Because you don't always have a concept. And so I started doing little bits of training. I started volunteering, and then I did the life coaching and got that contract. And it just sort of built from there. I really love helping people become successful. And lots of studies show that if you have someone in your corner, like a coach, you can go so much faster and achieve so much more if you have that little bit of support. And I love being that support. I love seeing people succeed.
I can't think of having a better person in your corner than someone who understands kind of what you're going through without you having to explain it. So, and by that I mean, obviously I'm a military spouse, and you have been a military spouse, so without me having to explain, oh, well, this. I mean, what it's like. So for those that are listening, I mean, obviously this podcast is tailored towards military entrepreneurs. Is there anything that you can share with them if they're feeling stuck, in their business? I mean, they're military spouses, but we also have active duty and veterans on the show.
I think the biggest learning for me was, I call it chunking things down. I had on my dream list for probably 3 years, create online classes. And it just always seemed so big. It was like, okay, that's on your to-do list, like buy milk, do the laundry, create online classes,
Right.
Just like, what do I even do with that? And so finally I just got fed up with myself, and I'm like, you know what? We're going to break this down into itty bitty, teeny tiny baby steps. And the first one was find a web designer, because the website needed to be a certain way before we could even start. And so I did. And this huge mountain of online classes was done just one little step at a time. And mostly it was like looking down at the next step, because the mountain looked so big. I mean, every now and then you have to look up at the mountain and go, yes, that's where I'm going. That's my vision. That's what I want to do. But if you stare at it too long, it is such a long journey up there. It gets overwhelming. So the big learning for me to actually get started and get going was to chunk it down into baby steps and just check them off one at a time. It's not very glamorous, but it is what gets you moving and going forward.
So for some of us who tend to, like myself, I'll speak for myself, and you know this about me. With that big mountain, I'm already on top of it, and then I've missed key steps along the way. So then I have to climb down the mountain to fix whatever I, coasted over, then go back up the mountain again. So I'm kind of always working like, oops, I meant to do this back. Okay, now 2 steps forward. So your system sounds way more effective than how I've been doing it. So
Well, and it's a little pedantic, and entrepreneurs tend to be creative types. We get ideas, and they're big ideas, and we just want to do it, like wave the magic wand and make it happen. But really where it happens is in that more boring, pedantic detail work that has to happen. And really the successful entrepreneurs are the ones, because there's lots of people that have great ideas, but the successful ones are the ones that can take those steps one at a time, and build it up and keep going. I mean, even maintaining momentum is difficult.
Yes. I mean, I spent I don't know, it was like a month ago or something, the new software for our QuickBooks, which is the program I use, came out. So there's about 2 hours there that I had to sit down and stop. When you're doing that one thing, you're not doing anything else. So that's,
Right.
Opportunity cost, or however they measure what that time is worth. So for those of us that are entrepreneurs and trying to do that themselves, your technique of, creating this, I guess this kind of, very small step sheets or list. See, I can't even form it right because it's a foreign concept to me. Tell us where to start. Like, if we wanted to do that, how does that look? Like, I mean, I just kind of throw up all of my ideas on a piece of paper and then I'm like, all right. And then I kind of organize them. But what's a better way to do that? Because that feels stressful for me just thinking about it.
Well, and actually it's very individual.
Okay.
Different people's brains kind of organize information in different ways. I mean, it helps to have a very clear picture of your end. Like in the beginning, I could see the online classes. I knew the quizzes. I could see the layout on the website, how it was going to be. And there were videos. I mean, I could see that whole thing. First of all, you have to get your website over into WordPress. And it's like you keep backing up. Well, I'd have to do this. Well, to do that, I'd have to do this. It's kind of like, for me, it was kind of a backwards thing. Well, really the first thing is I have to find a web designer that can move my website onto a host that's better than the one I had and transfer my website over to WordPress. And so that was like the first step. And I'm like, okay, now we got that done. The next thing we need to do is find the plugins that we can use for quizzes. And these are the things that I want. So we spent a long time on that. So in some ways, the next step sort of presents itself. I mean, you don't really have like the whole thing.
Yeah.
Specifically, like every little detail, you have a path and you know where you're going and you do one step and then it's like, okay, so with this step complete and I know that's where I want to go, what's the next step that I need to take to get there?
And did anything change along the way when you were, you had this list of small steps for the, online courses? During that, I guess that phase, that process, did any of those steps change or in priority even?
Oh yeah. Everything.
Yes. Everything. The whole list. I made another list.
Changes. There's obstacles and sidetracks. That soundproofing has been like a major challenge for me. I have dogs in my neighborhood that bark. And so I took this whole side trip on, learning about audio recorders and audio editing, video editing. I have these huge covers on my windows, to help do the sound. And so that was not a planned.
Right. I'm going to write this down to email you after and see if you can send me a picture of what that looks like. For the listeners that are listening, soundproofing is a big deal when you're recording because you have echoes if you're, too close to even to like windows and stuff. You have to be it's appropriate to be a certain distance away. So I would love to share what your recording studio looks like if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. I have curtains and the acoustic tiles and the designed window coverings. I had to order them special order.
Wow.
To windows. Probably not everyone wants to go quite that far. They're like Kevlar. They're really, really heavy. My husband helped me put them up. It was definitely a 2-person job. Right.
But if you're going to do anything, do it right. Do it so you don't have to work backwards. So that probably is a part of that small list. And I'll also interject that there is a podcaster that I'm very close to. Her name is Laura Peterson, and she interviewed me for her show, Copy That Pops, and we did ours, I think, via Skype, and she's across the sea. She's in Europe somewhere. But she showed me what her set. She was literally in like a a tent that she built for herself, like a fort in her house,
right?
With like blankets and everything all around her. And I was like, where are you? She's, oh, I'm in my, spare bedroom. And I'm like, you look like you're in like, I don't know, field or something.
Right. And audio, I have to say that just audio is easier than video audio. Because for the online classes, I do video.
Oh, so you have that element in and the activity and stuff. Okay.
Yeah. So one, you have to be dressed, that's a challenge some mornings. And what's behind you,
Right.
Like I have a light on my head now. I have actually screen material, like screened in porch material across the bookcase behind me to make it drop back so that it doesn't shine and you don't notice it so much. And all of those were side trips, not planned originally. Just things that you find, you look at it and you're like, man, the shine off that book's really bad. And a friend came in and she goes, you can put screen material over that. I'm like, really?
Wow.
So huge learning experience. And I think like most entrepreneurs, you get frustrated because you just want to leap ahead.
Right.
See it and you just want to go. And I don't know, like taking a breath, staying in the moment and knowing that it's the journey and it's going to happen. It may not happen as fast as you want it to, but all things that need to happen for it to go well. It's like you said on the QuickBooks, learning it is setting the foundation that you're going to build other things on.
See, y'all, this is why I love Kathy, because she makes you feel better about all of the things that are, and not necessarily even better, but just also points you in the direction of, and this is all unscripted, by the way, for you listeners. We didn't go over any of this, but like Kathy has a really good way of just kind of making you feel better when it's, when everything feels too much or when it just feels like it's so overwhelming. And I also, when I have conversations with people, because it's always easier for me to tell people what to do than tell myself what to do.
Always.
Right. I'll share bits and pieces of what I've learned with Kathy. And one of the things was, when you feel discouraged, just take a step back, but then don't stay back. Like, don't stay in that zone because it's comfortable, like, oh, I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to kind of like shut myself up. Don't stay there. Allow yourself to be there for a minute, but then, you kind of get out of it. And I think that's where we've talked about this too in entrepreneurial endeavors. That is the difference between someone being successful or not, is they end up and they stay in that kind of overwhelmed, discouraged, feeling type of, it's not necessarily even the obstacles. Like, it's more internal, what you have, how you're processing it. So,
right. Well, and the thing I see a lot is perfection. It is an entrepreneur's worst enemy because we want it to be perfect. And so we don't end up sending it out the door.
Right.
We sit and we see other people and we're like, I could do that so much better. And yeah, you could do it so much better. But you know what? They actually got it out the door.
Right.
Where you can see it. And that's the key, is finding that balance, because if you wait for perfect, you will be waiting forever. I mean, really, it's 80% out the door is better than 100% still sitting on your desk.
So for those that are listening, when we have an idea and we have these goals, we want to start a business, right? Sounds like so much fun.
It is. And
it's not gonna, it's not easy. Anybody who tells you otherwise, I'm always a little like, we don't know something's going on, because it's
work. It's work.
But you got to find, people like Kathy to be in your corner and to help you, even with that chunking, exercise where you create that list. Kathy, I told you, 16 minutes is going to fly by, and we are right around the 18 and a half minute mark, believe it or not. So for those that want to reach out to you, why don't you share where they can find you online and connect with you?
Let's see. My website is tapferconsulting.com. You'll see it written. That's probably easiest. My email address is kstorrey@tapferconsulting.com. I also have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm at kstorrey.
Okay.
I'm sure all that information is written.
Yep. I'll share all that. And I was just going to recommend that everybody, it's TORREY. So 2 R's in there. And that's KS Torrey on Twitter and Instagram. And then if you want to visit Kathy online, check her out, get some help when you're an entrepreneur. That's the biggest thing that you can do for yourself. Even if you're a solopreneur and you can't see how you can afford it or whatever, talk to Kathy. Because it is what's going to help you kind of get to that next level. So, tapferconsulting.com, TAPFER consulting.com. Should I do the way that I spell it, or should you, Kathy?
Yeah, we talked about the whole military. Now see, I'm on the spot. Tango, Alpha, Papa, Foxtrot, Echo, Romeo.
I would have done Thomas,
there you go.
Yeah, I would have done Thomas, Apple, Paul, Frank, Egg, Richard.
We'll have lessons on that.
I need to come up with that and have that out, because I can't tell you how many times I have to go Germono Advertising Company. It's
Oh,
yeah. All right, great. Well, thank you so much for your time today. You helped me, and I know you're going to help a lot of people who listen to this. Everybody, please connect with Kathy. She's one of my favorite people, and she's the reason why this podcast even became to be. So thank you, Kathy, for your time this morning, and I will be talking to you very soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Drop and Give Me 20, brought to you by Germono Advertising Company in Norfolk, Virginia. Please visit our podcast in iTunes, click on subscribe, and leave us a review. Your support goes a long way. When you subscribe and leave reviews, it helps the guests on our show as well. Jump in and let us know what you think. You can also follow all of our guests on the Drop and Give Me 20 Facebook page. We have Instagram and Twitter. Those handles are Give Me 20 Podcast. I'm your host, Lindsey Germono, and I appreciate you listening to the show.